Welcome to Oracle of Confidence. Today, I'm going to tell you that the thing you've spent years hiding, the thing you've been ashamed of, the thing that makes you feel wrong, that's actually your superpower. And everyone who achieved significant things has one. I want you to think about something you believe is wrong with you, something that makes you feel like you don't quite fit. Maybe you're too sensitive, too quiet, too intense. Maybe you have ADHD and can't focus like normal people. Maybe you're anxiety-prone, or you overthink, or you feel things too deeply. Maybe you're neurodivergent, or your brain works differently than the mainstream expects. You've probably been told this is a flaw. Your parents suggested you fix it. Teachers said you needed to work on it. Society said you'd be more successful if you could just be more like everyone else. So you've spent years trying to fix yourself, trying to fit, trying to be the version of you that's more acceptable to the people around you. But here's what the research reveals. The version of you that fits is actually a neutered version. The flaw you're hiding is your edge. And the moment you stop hiding, it is when you become unstoppable. Casey is 29 years old, brilliant creator. But Casey has been carrying shame about ADHD for 2 decades. Not the kind that's totally debilitating, the kind that's inconvenient, the kind that makes fitting into traditional structures feel impossible. Throughout school, Casey was the brilliant but unfocused kid. Teachers would say, Casey has so much potential, but just needs to apply himself. Which is code for, your brain doesn't work the way we've decided brains should work. And that's your failure. Casey internalized this, started believing that the ADHD was the problem, that if Casey could just be normal, everything would be fine. So Casey tried medication, tried rigid systems, tried forcing their brain into neurotypical patterns. And it worked, partially. Casey could function, could get through school, could hold jobs. But Casey was also exhausted because trying to operate from a neurodivergent brain using neurotypical strategies is like trying to write with your non-dominant hand. You can do it. It just costs 3 times the energy. Here's what Casey didn't realize. That same ADHD that made traditional structure impossible. That's what made Casey a brilliant creator. The same brain that couldn't sit still in a classroom is the brain that can hyperfocus on creative work for 8-hour stretches. The same brain that's unfocused in boring meetings is the brain that notices patterns and makes connections that neurotypical brains miss. The same weakness is the exact mechanism for the strength. This is true across the board. The person who feels too much, that's someone with extraordinary empathy, the ability to read rooms, to sense what others need. That's not a flaw. That's a sensitivity superpower. The person who's too quiet, that's someone with deep observation skills. Who listens? Who thinks before speaking? Who understands nuance? That's not shyness. That's perceptiveness. The person whose brain doesn't work like the majority's? That's someone who can solve problems in ways the majority can't even imagine. The research on neurodiversity is compelling. A study from Harvard showed that people with ADHD are overrepresented among entrepreneurs. Not because ADHD makes you more successful at following systems, but because it makes you brilliant at breaking systems, at seeing possibilities, at creative problem solving. People on the autism spectrum are disproportionately found in fields like engineering, mathematics, and computer science, not because they fit better, but because their different way of processing creates advantages in those domains. People with anxiety disorders, they have heightened threat detection systems, which is a liability in a safe environment, but an extraordinary asset when you're trying to foresee problems or navigate complex scenarios. The research is clear. The things we call flaws are often just different processing styles. And in the right context, different is a superpower. Everything changed for Casey when a mentor said something simple. Stop trying to be less ADHD. Try becoming more ADHD. At first, Casey thought this was absurd, but the mentor explained, instead of fighting the hyperfocus tendency, lean into it. Create a career where hyperfocus is an asset. Instead of trying to be focused on a normal schedule, build a schedule that aligns with hyperfocus patterns. Casey stopped looking for jobs in corporate structures and started freelancing, stopped trying to maintain balanced output throughout the day, and started batching creative work into hyperfocus sessions. Within 1 year, Casey's income tripled. Not because Casey became more normal, because Casey finally stopped trying to be normal and started leveraging the unique operating system Casey actually has. Here's what Casey realized. Everyone who's achieved something interesting has leveraged their flaw. They didn't become successful by fixing themselves. They became successful by weaponizing their difference. The introvert didn't become successful by becoming an extrovert. They became successful by creating something that rewarded deep thinking, observation, and one-on-one connection. The anxious person didn't become successful by becoming calm. They became successful in fields where anxiety's heightened threat detection was an asset. The person with ADHD didn't become successful by sitting still. They became successful in roles that rewarded pattern-breaking creativity. Casey's Transformation Protocol. Step 1. Name your flaw clearly. What have you been ashamed of? Step 2. Invert it. What is the exact opposite perspective on this trait? How could this be strength? Step 3. Identify context. In what environment would this trait be an asset rather than a liability? Step 4. Build toward that context, not by fixing yourself, by creating/finding situations where your flaw is your advantage. You don't need to fix yourself. You need permission to be fully yourself and stop apologizing for it. The version of you that's different? That's not the broken version. That's the version that can create things the normal version can't even imagine. As Jim Collins says, uniqueness is not just accepted, it's the prerequisite to spectacular success. Subscribe to Oracle of Confidence. In the comments, tell me, what flaw have you been hiding? What if that flaw was actually your superpower? Say it out loud. Claim it. Remember, your difference is not your deficit. It's your edge. It's your edge.